Hey loves, I am Fix. Welcome. This is 2020 Fix, where I cast a glance back to my museum of failures and extract the lessons and the learnings so that I can build a bigger, better, badder life for myself. And today I want to talk about meditation. And honestly, I could talk about meditation all day long because it's just been so amazing and it's changed my life and the lives of millions of people. It's such an ancient practice, but I feel like in this day and age of manifestation, it's making a bit of a comeback, which I am absolutely here for. But there is also awareness. I could talk about awareness forever, but meditation was the thing that helped me turn my life around. I'm sure you've heard meditation has so many health benefits. You sleep better, your body is healthier, you're more mindful, so you're calmer, your nervous system, you're less reactive, less angry. People who meditate on a regular basis report more energy, and this is all scientifically documented. And I know it's weird, right? I'm this black chick from Lesotho. If you guys don't know, it is a country inside South Africa. We're completely landlocked, but we are sovereign. We have a king and a queen. Okay. And I have been meditating since 1998. Yeah. Is it odd or is it God? Because at the time, no one was meditating in Lesotho, let alone really in South Africa that I knew, or that I know, which is why I'm making this episode because I just feel like it got a bad rap. You know, along with when yoga came into the South African zeitgeist, where it was just like, that is the devil. Have you seen where they put their legs? That is devil worship. Yoga is absolutely from Satan. And that's not true. Some of you girlies are meditating right now, even though you felt so strongly about how yoga was the devil's work 10 years ago. So I'm here to demystify meditation. And the crazy thing is that some of you are looking at your solutions, staring you in the face, but you are stubborn. You are stubborn, so you don't want to listen. I'm here to change all of that for everyone. In 1998, meditation was introduced to me through the Falun Gong or Falun Dafa movement. And it was only in my research for today's episode that I actually got what the meaning of that was. Falun Gong, wheel of Dharma practice, or um, practice of the law wheel. I have no idea what that means still, because the practice has nothing to do with a wheel. The only thing I can think of is that they have a swastika in the middle, stay with me, and then four other swastikas, and then yin yang signs that like all kind of turn to the right. The movement was founded in 1990, so that's well after World War II. So I'm just wondering what the founder was thinking making that the logo. You should look it up. It's really fascinating. It's also a really fascinating movement. So my dad doesn't know how to do things mid. He's an extreme kind of guy. So like he got into it deep. It was a very popular movement amongst the Chinese people in the late 1900s. Oh my God, the late 1900s. Yeah, then that's what they are. But my dad ended up on the BBC, front row during a Falun Gong protest because a lot of them were being persecuted for their beliefs. And my dad was in Beijing, Jesus, on the BBC in a gold two-piece. Anyway, I guess you can tell that I am my dad's daughter. He also traveled to New York to protest there. I believe their founder, Master Li Hongzhi. That's how my dad said him. Master Li Hongzhi. It's actually Master Li Hongzhi. And you know I'm going to geek out about that shit because I am an actress and I love accents. Anyway, Master Li Hongzhi lives in New York. I think he's still alive, but he like had this guru type status, right? He could apparently walk through walls and levitate. And the tenets that he was sharing with Falun Gong, which is similar to Tai Chi, were honesty. Okay, I get that. Um, Compassion, golden rule. I get that. And then forbearance. Now I had a little bit of trouble with the forbearance bit, but let's put a pin in that. But like I said, Falun Dafa is a little like Tai Chi, Qigong. It does cover, the mind, body, spirit alignment by incorporating movement, meditation, and moral teachings. It was also made very clear to me as a kid that this wasn't a religion like Buddhism, but it did borrow some practices and some teachings from Buddhist religion. Actually, my existence is cringe. My entire childhood is cringe now that I think about it because I always used to be like, oh my God, like, why? Why do we have to be this like family that now hosts meditation retreats on a Saturday? And people were coming, but such people were coming to Lenses Inn, if you know, you know. They were coming to meditate. My dad had like started a little bit of a community. I mean, even in South Africa, we traveled as a family to East London to meditate with other people, but it was still so cringe. I just wanted to be normal, like most kids, right? But my dad really did rule with an iron fist. So he did nothing in moderation. If it was that fluoride toothpaste was poisonous, then we were throwing out fluoride toothpaste and we were going to hit the streets. Or if it was meat at one time, and we didn't eat meat on Mondays through Fridays, only on weekends. So, yeah, you can see how I am my dad's daughter. Anyway, we became that family. And the reason I had an issue with that word forbearance, because it really did tip into tolerance and endurance very, very quickly. So, like I said, with Falun Gong, you're following these movements, and like Tai Chi, you have to go through the motions in a very specific way, and your goal is perfection. If you're holding your hands like this for 20 minutes, like you can't now go collapsing, or like this, you can't be like this. So there was a lot of rigor. And for my 8-year-old body, I was tired, okay? I was tired. And quite frankly, I was done. Because if my dad was watching, then it became, oh, you're bad, or you're not practicing forbearance, and you're doing this wrong. And there was just so much pressure. Hence the complicated relationship with meditation at the beginning, because I just felt like this was such a freaking chore. It's such a bore, and it's a chore. Also, the instructions were in Chinese. Also, there was a massive like poster, framed poster of Master Li Hongzhi by our door, and you could see it as soon as you entered. So I couldn't wait to be done with that. And thankfully, about a year, 2 years into his Falun Gong journey, my dad ended up going to get his MBA at UCT, and my parents divorced a year later. But I do think what led him to Falun Gong, especially Falun Gong specifically, because there were other meditations like transcendental meditation was very popular in the 90s, but nope, nope. My dad decided gold two-piece Falun Gong it was. And I think, 1998, he had a company, a plastics manufacturing company, and it did really, really well until it didn't. My suspicion is that, like me, when my rubber glove company tanked, he sought spirit. And that's what he found. That is what gave him comfort. And the pattern kind of repeated with me, albeit a good 40 years later. So I think that's what he was looking for. But I didn't meditate at all. I didn't meditate for years. I wanted nothing to do with meditation until the split from my ex-husband, which, you know, was probably one of the toughest things I have ever had to go through. I was in a foreign country. I felt completely isolated. I was in so much pain that I had to find something. And at the time, Headspace was really popular. It had been started by British monk, I believe is his name, Andy. Really cool app. All of my NYU friends were raving about it. And what I loved about this app is that it was goal oriented. So initially, I thought, and a lot of people think, that meditation is sitting there and thinking about nothing. It is not. Meditation is becoming familiar with, it is getting to know thyself, your thoughts, what is going on in here, because everything that you're seeing in your outside world is basically you pushed out. And I'm borrowing that from another great teacher, Neville Goddard. So when my initial separation happened, Headspace was such a great place to go to because they had topics like meditation was not just sitting and thinking about nothing. You could focus on anger. And they had a gamification element. So it'd be anger over the course of 10 sessions. And by the end of it, you really felt like you accomplished something, whether it was anger or depression or you were getting through betrayal. And I found that really helpful. And then between 2019 and 2023, I kind of went away from the guided meditations and just decided no matter what happened, I was going to sit for 20 minutes every single day as soon as I woke up. And the benefits were great. I mean, even though it was a pretty basic practice, I was less reactive, less angry. And I don't know if any of you guys have been through a divorce process that will trigger you. Like a person can blink wrong and they have done the worst thing. Like you're just so triggerable. And so I just appreciated the fact that I I had a lot more space between my thoughts so that I could decide whether I was going to go down the reaction path of losing my shit, completely valid in my situation, or I was gonna move differently. So I started to feel more in control. My nervous system was more balanced, but not as balanced as it could be. Because what I learned a couple years later, when I would be really, really stressed out and my 20-minute practice clearly wasn't enough, was that I needed to go deeper. So I started listening to spiritual teachers on YouTube. YouTube University, man. What would we do without it? I mean, I'm here, aren't I? Anyway, so I was listening to a lot of Abraham Hicks and a lot of teachers like that talked about manifestation. Abraham, if you don't know, it's a group of celestial individuals who are channeled through Esther Hicks, who was in the Secret documentary produced by Rhonda Byrne. And The Secret opened up the whole manifestation world to mainstream, basically. And so I listened to a lot of Esther and it made sense and it was just, comforting. Some things just resonate and I loved that and I was really happy. But in the shadows, lurking in the shadows was Dr. Joe Dispenza. And guys, I really tried to avoid him as much as possible. This is why I think I was experiencing a little bit of like spiritual information overload because there were so many teachers and they were really all saying the same thing. I mean, the truths that are in the ancient texts, whether it's the Bible or the Torah or the Quran, they're really all saying the same thing. So I was just like, this Dr. Joe guy can just go sit over there. But I was curious and I started listening to his teachings, and he was bringing this scientific angle to meditation, to spirituality, to mysticism, and I was just enthralled. Actually, I went to a Abraham Hicks seminar in Connecticut. She says the same thing, Esther says the same thing over and over again. But I do think that it does help to have community around these things. Otherwise, you feel like alone or a freak, which I did for a long time. I also ended up buying one of Dr. Joe's foundational, like introductory courses called The Formula. And at the time, with my glove company, I needed $10,000. I needed $10,000, and my ex-boyfriend, who had it, had told me that he was not going to give me the money. I hadn't asked for it, but he made it clear that he wasn't going to give it to me because he didn't want to make the relationship about the money. Sir, why not? Also, where was my bar? In hell. That's where it was. Anyway, so he's pre-told me that he's not going to help bring my business to life. That's fair, sir. It's your money. And then I'm doing this formula. I'm just like, let's just put it to the test. I'm going in, I'm focusing on the letter A for abundance, and I'm trying to feel the feels. And after about like 7 days, I'm feeling pretty good. 3 days after that, so 10 days later, I'm out to brunch with said man. And he literally just goes, I've decided to give you the $10,000 for your company. I was like, thank you. And he's like, yeah, I think we just need to test if it's going to fail or not. We want to fail fast. So if I can help you do that, then I'll do that. The next day, 10,000 in my bank account and in the manufacturer's bank account because I didn't even get to smell that money, honey. But then I started my business. Then I stopped meditating because I gotten my money and now I had my business and I was starting to sell. But one grave mistake, and business failures, failures in general, they're lessons, right? I know there have been so many comments, and I'm sure they're from a loving place. Fix, you've been so hard on yourself. Stop saying that you're a failure. You're not a failure. Bitch, I know I'm not a failure, okay? The whole point of this whole thing is to glance back and reframe failure as the greatest unlocks to your success, which in my case, they were. In everyone's case, it just depends on what you do with them. So I have a business now. I'm starting kind of to sell, but I realized I really didn't do any research on who I was going to sell my biodegradable medical gloves to. So I was sitting there with a whole bunch of products and I didn't know who I was going to sell it to. I was so lost. I remember I was just so stressed out. I mean, I don't even think I looked like myself. I was so stressed. It was December 6th, 2023, when I had my first big spiritual awakening, where I remembered that I wasn't my mind and I wasn't my thoughts. Newsflash, you are not your mind, you're not your thoughts, you are not your body either. So I had that realization. I was like, okay, if I am the entity that is seeing through my eyes, that is beating my heart, that is feeling through my skin, how do I use this expanded awareness to create the life that I want for myself? And that's when I started reading. I devoured any book on wealth and success that I could, but the needle wasn't moving. I was delivering gloves in the snow. I was going from grocery store to pharmacy to hair salon, trying to sell my gloves in New York City in the snow, trudging through the snow. I actually still have like knee pain from that because I rode my bike and it's long story. We're not even going to go down that path. Then I met my first coach. Her name was Mariko-san. And she was like, well, Fix, if you're reading and consuming the right content, then it's your energy and we need to work on your energy. And as soon as we started doing that, the miracles started popping up again. I won a little bit more money, like 25K here to get my business to the next level. But I also needed to get back into my meditation practice. So I did, and it deepened somewhat. But as it deepened, there was a lot of energy being released from my body. Quite literally, guys. It was actually insane. I would have never recognized myself. It was around April of 2024, and I am just meditating and showing up for myself because I knew that I had to unprogram, learn, whatever it was. I knew I had to sit for sometimes 2 hours and figure myself out. And boy, did I. Because when that energy started moving, child, just think of someone catching the Holy Spirit in like a really um, charismatic church. Yeah, kind of looked like that. I was mortified and I was by myself. And I used to have these thoughts like, oh my God, if my mom could see me, like proper just convulsions. And they still happen to this day. But now I know that it's just energy moving. And so I don't judge myself. I don't judge my body. I'm just grateful that I know when energy is moving through me. And this happened like over the course of months. So I then go to Dallas, Texas for my first Dr. Joe week-long advanced retreat. And we were meditating for like 9, 10 hours a day, I believe, for 7 days. So when you fast forward your any practice like that with that kind of intensity, things will move. And I believe that there was so much negative trapped energy in my body. The chaos that resulted, remember, everything is you on the inside, pushed out. So now I'm pushing out these energies that were stuck in my hips, in my womb, in my solar plexus. And we will talk about energy centers. It was all coming out of me and it was creating chaos in my life. I remember getting to the retreat and all of a sudden, Shopify decided we're not going to pay her out anymore. No explanation, nothing. Just stopped receiving money. And I was kind of depending on that money, even though it was trickling in. I still needed it to pay the company's bills and fulfillment centers and stuff. Inexplicably, that just stopped. I came back from the retreat, ended up having to stay with a friend in North Carolina. Get you friends, honestly, that she didn't even ask me how long I needed to stay. She was just like, I got you. I ended up staying there for a month. Get back to New York 4 days after that, fall off my bike, crack my collarbone. And one thing led to the next, and boom, I'm moving back home. But that all needed to happen. That chaos needed to happen because that old self, that old part of me was dying. And I feel like that is where, meditation becomes practical. It becomes like a tool. It becomes like your wand. In Harry Potter, we all have this wand, and I started like making it work for me. Like, oh, I think I'm getting how this is useful to me in a very deliberate, focused kind of way. And I feel like meditation helps you with unlearning things, unprogramming bad behaviors that aren't serving you, but it can also help you create. But I was in the unprogramming, so that part of me really had to die. And that's what I ascribe that chaos, that initial chaos to. And then in the next year, when I was now at home and my nervous system was a little bit more regulated, I started to create. And I will tell you exactly how I created my first Netflix role. I've got a movie coming out on February 6th on Netflix. It's called Your Bestie. I will share the episode on how I manifested that to the T when I got home and started creating through meditation. I also healed a disease that had been plaguing me for 2 years. I lost weight that had been on my body for many, many years, trying to get that off using meditation and also finally putting the bottle down. Okay, I stopped drinking alcohol. And those are just a taste of what you can accomplish and create just by opening yourself up to yourself, because that's what meditation helps you do. It's not about the gurus, it's not about the teachers, it's about you. And it opens up a portal to a relationship with the creator. And you are created in the image and likeness of the creator, which means you are a creator too. Like I said, I could talk all day about this, but we don't have all day, and I can see Johannesburg weather threatening to ruin my blowout. So I hope this resonated. Why don't you guys let me know? Are any of you meditators? Because sometimes it can feel a little lonely. I found a little bit of a community in Cape Town. I know there is a Dr. Joe community in both Cape Town and Johannesburg. What a dream it would be for him to host a retreat here. But if any of you are in the work, and if you know it is the real work, let me know. Put in the comments. And thank you so much for tuning in. This has been 2020 Fix.